She had the MBA, she had the six-figure salary, she had the title at a company everyone recognized, and she was sitting in a parking lot at 10 p.m., 9 months pregnant, crying. That was the moment.
If I'm gone tomorrow, y'all hire somebody else. That job description will be out quick. But my son only has one mom, and I will no longer make apology.
Yep.
When your values get violated grossly enough, then you have the backbone and the courage to start attacking that. I probably work more now in my business than I did in corporate. But just that alone, that change makes a ton of difference. So if my mom needs something, the nurse calls me, they're like shocked that I pick up the first ring and I'm there in 5 minutes.
When you're inside that corporate box, especially when it's a job that you love, it becomes your identity. Like you said, you wore your badge around. It was almost like losing a piece of myself.
She had the MBA, she had the six-figure salary, she had the title at a company everyone recognized, and she was sitting in a parking lot at 10 p.m., 9 months pregnant, crying. That was the moment, and this is Outside the Corporate Box. Welcome to Outside the Corporate Box. I'm J-Man, alongside Jeffrey Scott Stanton, and today's episode is brought to you by our founding partners, Wise Agent, Subi, and the CE Shop. These are the companies that believe in what we're building here, and we are grateful to have them in our corner.
The playbook is changing. The question is, are you changing with it? This is Outside the Corporate Box. Real conversations with real leaders who broke the mold and built something better. With your hosts, Jay Mann and Jeffrey Scott Stanton.
Today, we're sitting down with Tez Roro. Tez is a broker owner, speaker, and founder of Yourtopia Realty Partners. She spent 12 years climbing the corporate ladder, did everything the system said would work, and still found herself choosing between her career and her family at 10 p.m. on a corporate campus, 9 months pregnant. What she did next is exactly what this show was built for. Tez, welcome to Outside the Corporate Box.
Thank you
Welcome,
so much.
Tez.
Thank you.
So walk us through it. Before we get into the decision itself, like paint the picture. What did your world look like when you were inside it? The MBA, the life you were building, what was that? What was all that like?
Yeah, so I think I followed, the blueprint that most people follow. You go to college, perhaps even an advanced degree, get hired at a reputable company, make the six figures, get benefits, all that good stuff. And that was working, I must say, until it wasn't, right? It was working. That's where I like to say I grew up in, became a parent, got married, had my first child, bought a home, all of that in corporate. But when I became a parent, I think that was a moment for me. I realized that unfortunately, the way that the corporate structure is set up here, it's not conducive to working parents to be dedicated employees and dedicated parents, which I knew in my core that I was capable of. I know that I'm a dope employee. And I know that I'm a dope, could be at the time, parent. It just was not conducive in the setup. And so that was, the moment for me once I realized that, okay, so do I continue to live this misaligned life, or do I do something about it? And we bought a home, 12 years ago or so. And that was, I never planned on being a real estate professional. It was not in my peripheral. I don't know anybody, around me, family, business in general. Imagine going from like six figures benefits to commission only. Like it just was not something that I was planning to do. But I think my own home buying experience kind of helped pave the way for, hey, I think this is something I can do.
Well, you describe yourself as a risk-averse introvert.
Mm.
Okay. And be honest, did corporate exactly fit that version of you? Or were you just good at fitting into what corporate wanted from you?
Well, over the 12 years that I was in corporate, I've held about 6 different roles, right? Anything from your typical behind the desk to in the field, in operations, working with, small business owners. I certainly wasn't at the time, speaking to large audiences or anything like that. I'm a lifetime learner and student. And so I was always in, professional development classes. I was in Toastmasters and things like that. So I did fairly well there. But I think I talk about the risk-averse introvert from a perspective of, when I was in corporate, I was actually given a sales job, even with the salary base. And I said, no. I'm like, what do you mean? From going from here to like quota? Like, that's what I mean by I never imagined being like on 100% commission, right? But I think when your values get violated grossly enough, then, you have the backbone and the courage to start attacking that. It took me 2.5 years once I was licensed to risk mitigate and plan through my exit strategy. So that's what it took from me. I was not one of those people. I got licensed and boom, I'm going to quit and I don't have a plan. I don't have that luxury. I'm a first-gen immigrant. I'm not a trust baby. There's an article that I wrote on Forbes documenting my exit process if anyone is interested in learning. So yeah, I would consider myself that. Now, I have become a little bit more higher appetite for risk because now I've been in the business for a while and know what to look for to take calculated risks.
So Taz, you mentioned the immigrant, and generally for immigrants, there's a path that you follow. It's like the expected path. You go to school, you get the degree, you work for a big company, you become a doctor, a lawyer. Like it's
You make your parents proud.
Yeah, you make your parents proud. How much of that was your ambition, and how much of it was I'm following the path that I'm supposed to follow going into big box corporate America?
Great question. Funny you say doctor, because my undergrad is in biology and I took the MCATs to go to med school, right? And I decided against it. I think even back then, I should mention that I am the firstborn daughter. If you know, you know, okay? And so my sister's about 10, 11 years my junior. And so I had just became the second, our dad passed when I was 12, she was 10 months. So I became the second parent automatically. So there's a little bit of that. And that had a lot to do with why I pivoted. I mean, in med school, you don't get to work. You're just going to school. It's a high demand. I could not do that. I had to continue to work and help my mom, right? So my mom was a teacher also. As soon as I was done with my undergrad, she was in my ear about, when are you going to go to your grad school, right? So education is a priority in our culture. And I'm a nerd, so it's fine, it worked. But I think for me, the challenging part was not just community, not just mom, but even my college counselors. I went in with a bio major, pre-med intentions, having to pivot to business and having to explain why, right? Like when I remember I ran into one of my college counselors, I think at a store. She was like, what are you doing with your lab these days? And I said, well, I got my MBA. And she's like, MBA? Like for her, it was like a disappointment. What happened to med school?
Why would you do that?
Right.
Why would you do business?
But I will tell you guys that I have physician clients. And that's something that I connect with them on, is like they're always pleasantly surprised when I say, hey, I actually have a bio major and took the MCATs. And they were like, you made the right decision.
Yeah.
Whispered to you.
You don't want all those loans.
No, I mean, unfortunately, I think a lot of physicians are losing the passion for practice because how they went in it and how it's, happening now is different. So I'm grateful to have had the courage to pivot, even if it was not understood or supported by many. But my mom was supportive, honestly. Like, I think all she cared about was that I was educated. That is important to her. She didn't, stress me about why pivot to business. She understood that, I was on the right path. It was more so for my community and more of like my college, but they didn't understand such a jump.
And so when did you first notice the cracks? Because you said like you kind of planned an exit strategy. So it wasn't the parking lot. That was kind of like the breaking point, right? There must have been well before that where you were like.
So yeah, for anyone that's a parent and that's working in a 9-to-5 structure, I know this is going to hit. So I had my first child. And my husband at the time we're in Jersey. So I'm in Jersey for those who are listening. And we're right outside of New York City. So we have tons of people who live in Jersey and work in New York City, right? So that's what he was doing. And so the part of Jersey we were in, not that it was far to the city, but there was not a direct train. So you had to either drive or take the bus. It was like a 2-hour ride each way, which meant that I was the default primary parent, right? So if the kid got sick, I'm the one that got called. So that kind of started to happen more often with the first child, right? It was the hardest thing I had to do, handing my newborn baby at 3 months to daycare. In those 3 months of maternity, by the way, I did the NDAs, the baby products, the blogs, anything to stay home and not have to go back to corporate, right? Unfortunately, those 3 months came and went pretty fast. But in any case, that happened more where I started to feel like people were questioning my commitment to my work because of my parenthood journey. And when my son was at 11 months, he got hospitalized. He caught RSV. He was hospitalized on oxygen monitor. And I have to tell you, up until that point, anytime the phone rang, it didn't matter who called me. My body was in a state of anxiety because I just thought that it was the daycare calling me once again to pick him up, right? I had to have some really tough conversations with my manager at the time, who was a young male, from what I understand, was not partnered or had a child, so did not understand the parenthood journey. Let me tell you, once I came back, once I saw my baby in a hospital with the oxygen mask for 4 days, and I came back, there was this new level of courage and backbone that I grew. And I called a meeting with my manager and say, listen, this is what I can commit to you. I can commit to you that I'm going to do everything I can, see if my husband can make it, my mom, backup care. I'm going to do everything, work from home. I mean, I do have an MBA and I'm a professional. I'm not a day laborer. So I can take my laptop and take it. And if I feel like I can't do my work, I'll take a personal day. However, I don't ever want to be apologizing for being a parent. I don't want to feel anxious again. Someone sacrificed for you to be here,
Yeah.
right? If I'm gone tomorrow, y'all hire somebody else. That job description will be out quick. But my son only has one mom, and I will no longer make apology for it. From there on, I'll tell you guys, people in the hallway, and I was in headquarters, will say, what happened? You walk different. You look different. They notice the courage in me. So that was the moment I say, this is no longer working for me. It's not working. I have to do something different.
Here's a question. So from the time you're in the corporate world to having your first child, like how long were you in that corporate world till you had your first child?
So, I've been in the corporate world for 12 years. And by the way, I started when I was still in college, remember? Like, I was still doing my, I think junior year of college is when I started. It wasn't supposed to be a career, by the way. It was just a job to pay my new card notes that I was nowhere near qualified. When you walk into the finance office, it was like, you are now make that money. It was that type of a deal. And so then it became, and they paid for my MBA, I should say. I would say I started at the company maybe around 2005, and I had my child 2012.
Okay.
But the first couple of years was, just finishing my college degree. It wasn't really meant to be a career. I think once I got my MBA and things like that.
So like so probably 7 or 8 years into it is when it became more of your career until you had your first child. I'm just trying to get time. So I'm gonna go sidetrack and we'll get back to saying. So did you expect it to be different when you had kids? Like, there was one question because I don't have kids. So like when you're in that corporate environment, do you think, if I have kids, is my corporate job going to be different now?
Different, you said?
Yeah. Is it going to be like, did you have that thought behind it? Like, I want to have children. Is my corporate job going to be different because I have children now?
I didn't think it'd be different. I know that. So the benefit of having a different culture. So I was born and raised in Ethiopia, for the benefit of those who are listening. And I have seen a different model of life and what family looks like and what it takes to raise a child. So I knew that in the Western culture, we don't have a lot of village and support, and I knew it would be difficult. But in my mind, I had that village, the backup care, the mom, I'm married, right? But even with that, it still was not enough. And so, I expected it to be challenging, but I also know that I'm a dedicated professional. I take my job seriously. I'm going to do everything I can to deliver. It was just an honestly unrealistic expectation. If I left at 5, right, to pick up my son from daycare, it was obvious that I was the one leaving at 5, right? Because everyone else was there longer.
In a corporate world that's built on grind it out, work, be the last one to leave, be the first one to get there. But as a parent, you got to drop off daycare, you got to pick up at daycare or your helper or whatever else. And the others really don't. As a parent who has done that, and been in, like, we have that limited time to be able to get work done because we have a hard stop that can't change.
Yeah, and I think some people are just honestly, I mean, the thing I enjoy about leaving corporate and doing my own thing is I don't have to, deal with bureaucracy or red tape. I can call things the way that it is. And I will tell you, just really cool people there. Like, as an example, there was, what do you call it? When people in union strike, right? And there was a team of us, a small team of us. And of all the team, I'm probably the youngest with, a toddler at the time. I was the one asked to cover in Garden City, New York, out of New Jersey, to go back and forth. I said, no, y'all know I have a child, right?
Like Garden City, Long Island?
Yes.
That's said, not very close.
Dudes here who have adult children, right, who do not have this responsibility. Like, in what logic does this make sense? I mean, it became a problem because my name kept showing up, in the big ups, and I would get called in and say, you're looking to move, and this is not looking good. And I said, well, feedback is a gift, right? I'll take your feedback, but I'm not taking it this time. You do what you need to do with that information. I mean, I really had to start being courageous in my moves. So yeah, it was difficult.
So then walk us through what happened when you're sitting. Now this is your second child, 9 months pregnant, right? 10 p.m. crying. What was the break?
I
What was the
think,
breaking point there?
several things happened. Like I remember crying in it. This is the headquarters of the national, location. And so it's huge. It's a maze. You can get lost, buildings, parking lots. I just remember distinctly going to my car during lunch and just breaking down. I'm a pretty resilient person. Like I don't cry over everything.
Yep.
And I think it was just like fighting through the system of just like, why can't you see what it is for what it is? Like, why isn't that we can't work with each other? I'm not giving less to work because I'm a parent. It's just the structure that you're expecting it is not conducive to being a parent. I remember one time, it's called capital budget time, right? It's crunch time. And this is when all the different departments send in their products and services to us. And we look at it and, we approve and things like that. And it was 10 p.m. I was 9 months pregnant and I left the campus. It's dark. I'm exhausted.
Yep.
I have back pain naturally always. And so imagine being full-term pregnant. And at the exit of the campus, I hit something. I was like, oh my gosh, I hit somebody's dad jogging. Like now I killed someone. Like it took me 5 minutes to come out of the car because I didn't know what I was going to find. It was just one of the scariest moments. And I slowly come out and it turns out to be a deer.
Mm-hmm.
But it still shook me, right? That I was exhausted and it was dark and I hit something late night. It was another moment of like, this can't be normal. Like this, I did what I was supposed to do. Like I got the advanced degree. Like I'm a great employee. Like I'm dedicated. This cannot be all there is to it. And so I remember coming home and of course I wasn't eating dinner with my kid or husband, right? It's late at that time. My son is already sleeping and I had the work phone. And I got home and my manager at the time, which is a different manager than the gentleman I mentioned before, was sending me an email to the tune of work still not done. I lost my lid. Lost.
Yeah, so
And I was, responding back and Mike, my husband he's like, whatever you're going to say, it's probably not going to be good. Just let it go. So I think that was another moment of like, this one's not to go. Like this can be all there is to it.
So what'd you do the next morning? This is all happening, crying, hitting a deer.
Luckily, by this time I was already licensed. So I became licensed when my firstborn was 2.5 months. Like I closed in June on my home. In August, I was in pre-licensing classes in the evening while working full-time and parenting. And in January, my license was active. But it was a dual career agent and, corporate and parenting is demanding. I really didn't get a chance to practice it. So when this experience happened, I said, you know what? I didn't even share I was pregnant with my second one till 5 months pregnant because I was in conversations about promotions and things like that. I knew for sure that I would impact it, unfortunately. And sure enough, as soon as I shared I was pregnant, I was told, congratulations, how long will you be taking off? That was literally the order of questions, right? So I think then I knew that I did not want to come back. This is, J-Man, to your question, the risk mitigation piece. Like I did not know if I could move from, a secure, quote unquote, secure, even though every quarter, right?
So
salaries on the expense line item.
You made a plan.
Yeah, but it was like, I cannot continue to do this. And I decided then that when I was going to take maternity leave, I was going to take 6 months, which is career suicide, unfortunately, for women. But I had decided that I was not going to seek going up the ladder anymore. And I was going to use that time to live a life of a realtor full time. Now, I should mention my husband changed jobs at this time. He was now consulting out of state. So 3 weeks out of the month, he wouldn't be home. So now I have a toddler, a newborn, right? Nursing, not sleeping, and
launching a new career.
A new career. But that's what it took. So for me, like, when people come to me and say, I want to do this, my question is, what needs to be true for you to feel comfortable to move? And for me, it was living the life of a realtor full time, because I've been in roles where I was great at it, but I didn't enjoy it. So for me, I needed to make sure that this was something I can do. At the time, I was with Keller Williams. And so I did Bold and Ignite together, which is pretty intense for a new mom. But that's, for me,
For those of you who know it, they absolutely take both at the same time. Absolutely.
but that's what I needed to do, to say at the end of 6 months, I needed to have conviction to myself that, yep, I can do this lifestyle and I'm confident and I can leave. And that is part of what I wrote in my Forbes article about how I risk mitigated to leave. So that's how it launched.
You wrote in your intake, and I want to see if I can get this quote right. You said people are married to the top line gross salary number. What do you mean by that? Unpack that.
So what I mean by that is, so we talk about the six figures, right? Like $100,000 is what most people refer to as six figures. So we think we're making $100,000, but when I started doing the numbers of like, okay, what does it take to run our household? Well, first of all, we don't often think about the tax that gets taken away. We're not keeping 100K, right? So there's tax, there's benefits, and all these things, and then the time, the commute back and forth, the quality of time, the stress, the time that we're missing. So I really made a bare bone of I'm really getting this. Now, do I have confidence in myself that if I think I'm dope here in this structure and I'm living a life that's not aligned with my values and people are constantly violating my values, can I make that out here? That's what it came down to, right? Now, there are practical considerations like healthcare and things like that. Luckily, my husband was employed with 9 to 5 at the time, so we were able to move it there. But I think we get married to the top line and don't really come down to both the number of what we're actually keeping and also how we can replace some of those concerns like healthcare or whatever it may be, so that it makes sense and it's something practical and achievable.
Quick shout out to one of our founding partners, the CE Shop. Look, continuing education doesn't have to feel like a punishment. The CE Shop provides online real estate education that actually makes sense. Pre-licensing, post-licensing, continuing education, all of it. Built to fit your schedule so you can keep your career moving forward without putting your business on pause. Check them out at theceshop.com. Link in the show notes, and be sure to tell them that J Squared sent you.
Yeah, that makes sense. A lot of times when we talk to agents in training, where it's always like how much you're making per hour for what you're actually doing, and what's all that other stuff. For a 9 to 5 corporate job, it's the driving and it's the commute and it's that. For a real estate agent, it's the pick up the phone and doing that. So there's different costs involved in it. But you're right. I think if people are married to that, oh, I make X amount of dollars, and might not realize how easy or sometimes how difficult it might be to make that outside the corporate box. And I think that's what keeps a lot of people stuck inside their own little corporate box because they see that number. I think someone had said it in one of the other podcasts that we did.
Golden handcuffs.
Yeah, golden handcuffs. It's like too good to leave.
Now, I will say, remember I said it took me 2.5 years to transition. I will say you can use it to fund your business or your dream, right? Like for me, I knew that like between my husband, so when my husband took that consulting job, which took him outside of the home for 3 weeks, it was really difficult for me and so was for him, but he also got a bump when he made that jump. So between that and knowing our true number, I was, if I didn't generate anything in a year, we'd be good. Also live below your means, y'all. Live below your means. That is the gift that keeps on giving, right? And so for me, that was really helpful. So there's nothing wrong with starting. I mean, I'm an instructor and speaker, and I tell people you don't have to leave your 9 to 5 in order to launch this full time. You can structure your business in such a way that you can practice, dual career. And there will be a point where you will feel comfortable jumping. For some people, it's revenue. For me, it wasn't. For me, at the time, it was like, will I like the lifestyle? Will I be able to win the challenges that come across, right? And 6 months was the time that I needed to do that.
And so you were fortunate enough to have a spouse that had the health insurance and had every, that could help you with that. What if it's somebody who doesn't have that? Maybe their spouse is also an entrepreneur that was relying on you or them for their health insurance or some of those benefits. How do you talk to that person who says, I have kids, I have a mortgage, I have everything, and I can't really take that risk right now?
Even saying that, maybe it's the person who's the single mom or the single dad that has to do all this himself and doesn't have someone to lean on, or even without kids.
Guys, I'm going to suggest everybody who's listening to this read my Forbes article. When I tell you, I literally documented my risk mitigation process. Even if I'm married, I'm the type mindset of like, I need to be making my own money, right? Like that's just how I was raised and born. Now, here's some practical suggestions I would suggest. So for me, one of the things that I documented there was, even though I was married, is I took a general loan from my 401k at the time, right? And I didn't touch it, but it was my commission breath, to make me commission breath free, right? Like I didn't want to chase commissions. Like I wanted to just
your commission breath freshener,
or just I wanted to be free of that. I didn't want people to think that I'm chasing commissions, but I'm actually really a practitioner and I'm serving them. For me, that's what needed to happen. Now, thank goodness I didn't need to touch a penny of it. Like I had it in a separate account and I had it repay itself. But that's what needed to be true for me. If I ever needed it, it was there. I wasn't going to act out of desperation. For people who have mortgages, I would say get your HELOC while you're still employed, right? Because you have to show some level of employment. Like there are strategies you can use for healthcare. There's something called federally qualified health center. Let me tell you, you will become creative when you need to make that move, right? And these are centers throughout the nation where they have schedule of fees, published fees for regular, doctor appointments and dental. We had to use that actually. My husband is not freelancing as well, so we had to use that in between while he left until we got our insurance, started as well. So you become really creative in finding solutions. So there are solutions that you can use.
We're going to put that Forbes article in the show notes, folks, and the description on YouTube, so you have it. But let's talk about the rebuilding, not the version that looks good on LinkedIn, because we don't want that. The real version, right? You mentioned something in your intake about the loneliness and building something.
Isolation.
Isolation. Building something when the people closest to you, they really don't fully understand what it takes. And like, oh, great, Tez, you got something new. You're going to kill that like everything else, but it's different.
So, I think there's two different seasons when I felt that. One is obviously leaving corporate, and even the identity piece. Let's even talk about the identity piece, right?
Yes,
like even though this is
comes out
something I
often.
chose to do, I have to admit to you that unfortunately, the realtor community doesn't necessarily have the most loved or respected, respect from the
Prestigious.
community. And so, and remember, I got into it because my buying experience was not great. And so there was something about having an MBA, coming from a reputable company. And I mean, I was so proud of working at that company, guys. I would literally have like my badge when I went to the grocery store. Like I wanted it to be known. Like it was something I was proud of for a
I
while.
wore the
Yeah.
T-shirt.
Right?
We
Yeah.
understand this
Very
totally. I
familiar.
do.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And so coming from that to a realtor, whatever that means for different people, and even for me to fully embrace it, I will admit to you, it took a while, right? Now, understanding that this is not chasing commission, it's building business, and there's so much to it, and it's up and down, a roller coaster. I have so much more respect for it. Then, that's when I became involved with my associations and things like that. So there was that phase of, even for me, fully embracing that profession and that title, right? Then more recently, I've launched my brokerage and a property management as well. It's literally like two startups at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And in both times, so when I was leaving corporate in dual career, and now I had to have some really tough conversations with my family and friends. Like with my husband, when I was transitioning, it was like, listen, I only have the weekends and evenings. And so I'm going to be driving around. I'm going to be showing, I'm going to be practicing real estate, which means I'm not going to be home as much, right? Just having that agreement up front, this is what it takes for me to feel, to fully confidently say I'm a professional and own it. These are the steps that I need to take. And we just need to agree that this is a family agreement. So there's no resentment or anything. More recently, I had to have conversations with my friends. I mean, some of my best friends, rightfully so. They said, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. I feel like you don't really have time for us. And I had to say, listen, I'm in a different season of my life. I'm in a building season right now. I'm in a go-go mode. I love you. I care about you. It's nothing, has changed in terms of my care for you, but I simply don't have the time for physical presence to be in one space. I could barely think and swim, right? Like yesterday, I took my son to swimming. I had my laptop with me, right? Trying to squeeze in whatever time that I could. And so, sometimes those conversations have been tough, right? Even with my husband, it's like, listen, I'm in a build phase right now. I may not make dinner because we have our routine. He does the mornings, I do the evenings. So like, I may not make dinner every night. I may be out at events in the evening. So I think it requires recalibrating with the loved ones. Or family, right? If we're caregivers for our elder ones, and if we have siblings saying, hey, I need you to do a little bit of more of this now. And yeah, people don't always understand it. But I think one thing about me is I'm always clear in my communication and my intention. And you have to also be good with boundaries. Not everything is my weight to carry. I really believe that. It's not mine to carry all the time.
Yeah, so you mentioned identity shift and isolation, Jeffrey. This comes up often.
Yeah. This is probably one of the biggest recurring themes across all these is that, like, and I've said before, and J-Man, I've talked about it, and Tess, you mentioned, we have almost everybody else said, is like when you're inside that corporate box, especially when it's a job that you love, it becomes your identity. Like you said, you wore your badge around. I wore the t-shirt to go get my hair cut. It was that type of thing. So I always find that interesting. And then what is it like, and this is even one of the questions that's in here, but what is it like losing that identity? Because it's almost like losing a piece. To me, it was almost like losing a piece of myself. And I said to him, I put way too much into the identity of that corporate Jeff that I was. So I'm always curious about that.
So for me, it wasn't about losing the identity. It was more so finding comfort in the new identity. So I didn't feel like I was mourning that. And unfortunately for me, the last couple of years have been quite traumatic corporate wise. Like, remember I said I was part of Toastmasters. And so, I was like a leader regionally, whatever. So it was a corporate club. So I used to go back to the campus, the corporate campus. It was to the point where I had physical reactions, guys, when I went back on that campus because it was traumatic. So for me, leaving it served its purpose. Like I said, they paid for my MBA. Like I grew up there, like it worked until it didn't. So for me, it was not mourning that title. It was more so, can I fully own and be confident in this idea of I'm a real estate professional, and what does that look like for me? So it was more so stepping fully into this one.
So again, jumping around a little bit. So why real estate?
So as I mentioned, I bought a home, and it was not a great experience. And I was working with folks who were in the game for 30 years. And when I tell you, I got things on the CD that were wrong. And I was not in the industry, right? It was just common sense. I'm well read, and I ask questions. And so I'm like, after that, I said, because remember, the idea of this model, the corporate model is not working for me, has already been planted. I've been trying to figure out what is it that I can. Nonprofit was another path for me, right? I'm on a ton of boards, and my heart is in service. But I was like, but the lifestyle, though, right? Like, I don't know if it's going to support my lifestyle. And so there were many things that I hired a career life coach as part of that transition, I should mention, to help me clarify different things. And so it wasn't an automatic thing, but I think having gone through the process intimately, and then I was like, oh, this is how y'all do this? Like, you have no empathy for the person that's doing this for the first time, and they're probably making the most expensive purchase. I had to hold everybody accountable. And that's when the ding moment of like, hey, I don't have to get a whole other degree to do this. Let me go through the process and see if I can enjoy it. And then that 6-month maternity period was like, okay, now that I have the credentials, do I think I will actually enjoy this as a lifetime? So going through the process is what made it a possible option for me.
And for the non-real estate folks, CD is closing disclosure.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit. So you said you're risk adverse. You're a risk adverse introvert, and I don't think I've ever heard that terminology. I know what a risk adverse is. I know what an introvert is, and it's like I'm trying to. You explained it, but I'm trying to like click that the risk averse, because as an introvert you are generally risk averse, but to put the two together. So do you think being that risk averse introvert, or believing you are, potentially slows you down in the entrepreneur? Because now you're an entrepreneur, in that decision making as a business owner, as an entrepreneur.
I think for me, the reason why I mention those together is usually when I hear about people quitting corporate or whatever, they are the risk takers, right? And they're the people, the extroverts, right? They believe they have connections, or they don't even have a plan B, but they're going to figure it out. That wasn't for me. I'm not built that way. And also the fact that I'm an immigrant and I don't have, a ton behind me. I think that's an important story to tell. I think you often hear about the stories of, I didn't know what my plan was, but I was like, I just quit. Like, I cannot comprehend what that means. So the reason why I mention that all the time is often we don't hear about the stories where there is no capital behind them. And, there is they didn't go to an Ivy League. Like they were the blueprint. Like there was no blueprint to follow, and they made the blueprint themselves. So that's why I mentioned that. Now, a risk averse doesn't mean, we don't take risks. I mean, going to real estate commission, right? Like 100% commission, launching a brokerage, that is risk, but it's just calculated risk. Right? So I'm not making calls and hoping it figures out. I ask tons of questions. I prepare. It's been 3 years since I had my broker's licensed. And it took a year of planning for me to say there's lawsuits, all kind of things happening. And I'm like, let me just see how all of this is going to settle. Like there's a process to my method. That's all it means. But we don't make decisions. We do take risks. They're just calculated ones. An introvert just means that I'm very protective of my time and my energy where I spend it. You're not going to find me, if there's a networking and it's at a bar, not my scene. But we are very good listeners and we make great connections. I'm just not the life of the party, but a lot of people have a hard time believing the introvert part because I do speak on stages and I am passionate about certain topics, but I'm very intentional about the spaces that I choose to spend my time in.
Yeah, it's weird because that introvert thing, I think a lot of people misunderstand what an introvert is, especially people aren't, because technically I am an introvert. And that to me, that just means that when I recharge, I don't recharge in a group full of people. I recharge unlike J-Man, when he recharges, he needs to recharge around a whole group full of people. We're all great on stage. It's just what we do afterwards is how we recoup our energy. Most people who leave corporate America make it sound like a release, like finally I'm out of here. And we talked about before, yeah, also some people is that part of the grief. I really think it depends upon it if you chose to leave or you were forced out. Was there anything, because you said it really wasn't a mourning for you, it was more like that relief, but was there anything that you had to mourn to let go and actually be fully into your next adventure, be fully into that real estate aspect?
No, not really. So I think the type of person that I am is like, even in tough situations and tough relationships, I think it's Denzel Washington who said, I'm from around the way, I'm going to leave with something, right? Like I squeeze experiences out of every good or bad. And I'll always be a winner for that in my mind, right? So, I definitely used my journey and opportunity. I raised $10,000 for my church and they matched it. Like, are you kidding me? Like I used that opportunity. I got my master's out of it. I bought a home. Like I used that path for what it was supposed to serve. But I think we have to be honest and say, and this is true in personal relationships, right? Or in business, sometimes certain opportunities are meant to be there for a certain journey. And it's okay to say that, thank you, I've grown it. And, when you start to feel misaligned emotions and stress and trauma, that's definitely a telltale sign that you have grown, you're welcome in that space, right? So I really didn't have to mourn much. Now, I will tell you that I think the joy and the win is, I go to both of my kids' school and do career day almost every year. And last year I did it in the middle school. And one student asked me, and this, the students get given from the teachers like little planted questions if no one is asking.
Yeah.
So
I've
they're
done that. That's fun.
yeah. So they're like,
like we do when we're teaching in classes. If no one asks me a question, please ask me something.
Right.
Like that type
Exactly. So they're like, so what is like an average income of, your job, right? I was like, well, first of all, it's not a job. Let's start there. It's a business. I said, there are years.
Listen here, kid.
I mean, they're middle school. They understand.
Yeah.
I said, there are years where I complained about paying too much taxes. And then I have to quickly remember that, this is a blessing. And there are years if Uncle Sam was going to pay me because it's been tough, right? But I said, my measure of success is being able to say that I never missed a beat of my children's life. I no longer had to ask permission to go make the field day smack in the middle of the day. Like they know I'll be there.
Yep.
And can I tell you, middle schoolers were clapping, like I struck a chord in them. That is my measure of success, right? Some years I make great money, some years I don't. But for me, I think that's the other thing too, is like, what is your value system? You have to be, and I think I talked about this in the article, you have to be clear on your value system when you're making such a drastic career change. Because money is important, we need it to live. But what other thing? For me, the idea that I was not confined to, and it's not a 9 to 5. We say 9 to 5, it's more like a 9 to 10, but y'all know what I mean. Like being confined to a 9 to 5 versus not, it just has changed the currency of time. Like I am
Quality of life.
aware that tomorrow is not promised. I may not be here tomorrow. So then I have to make the most out of this in my relationships, in what matters to me, and living out my potential. So the fact that I'm not confined to a specific place and time, I probably work more now in my business than I did in corporate, even though I was, raw dogging it on corporate. But like just that alone, that change makes a ton of difference. So if my mom needs something, sometimes my kids get sick and the nurse calls me, they're like shocked that I pick up the first ring and I'm there in 5 minutes, because that's not everybody's reality, right? So to me, that is the construct of time, and how we use it is the biggest win, I think.
Yeah, I love that, because it's like, yeah, you're working 9 to 10, but you might work 9 to 11 and then go to lunch with your kid. Or then, right, you have so many things that you can do throughout the day. And like you said, be there for the moments that matter most, because nobody's going to remember that board meeting that you missed.
100%. I mean, speaking of that, J-Man, like that 6-month period, the second maternity that I took with my second child, one of the memorable things I remember doing is when my husband was not traveling, I had lunch with him during the week outside. And I just felt like giddy. Like I didn't have to ask permission for anyone to do that. I'm like, I want to do more of this, you know, or fitting in a petty. Like I may still take my laptop now, but like I could still do that. You know, like for me, that is what's important. Like not owing my time to anybody else, you know?
I love that. Well, we're going to do our quick lightning round. These are going to be just spitfire questions. You don't have to think too much about them. Just
Okay.
Okay. You ready?
You got it.
First answer is usually the best.
All right.
Yep. All right. First business you ever ran. Doesn't have to be official. Could be as a kid.
Avon.
What was it?
Avon.
Avon.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
A leader or someone famous you never met, but would do anything to have an hour with.
Michelle Obama.
Best decision you've ever made that everyone around you thought was the worst decision you've ever made.
Probably leaving corporate.
I was going to say. I knew that was going to be it.
What does success look like to you? I know this answer because you said it already. What does success look like to you on a Tuesday at 2 p.m.?
Owning my time and deciding what to do with it as I wish.
Last thing that genuinely surprised you about owning a business.
Oh, I don't know that this is a prize, but like I mean, especially until you reach a capacity where you can leverage it out. I had an assistant, had to let her go. Every little minute thing, right? Like, I mean, launching my business now, like I had to do a new W-9 and a new wire and like every little thing, it has to get done, but does it have to get done by you? Like it's a lot.
10 years from now, one sentence about you or to yourself.
You've made it. The business can now operate without you. You own your time. You can travel. You've made it.
All right. Last question, Tez. And this is the one we close every episode with. What is the one piece of advice you would give to someone who's literally about to quit their job and bet on themselves?
Be clear on your value system, because that's what's going to push you through when things get rough. And they will get rough, but you will get through them. If you're clear on your why and your value system, when things get rough, that's what you are left to hold on to. But you can do it. Even as a risk-averse introvert, you can do it.
Tez, before we let you go, where can people find you?
TezRoro.com. LinkedIn is probably the best place. That's where I share more often, where I'm doing, what I'm speaking about, just, thought leadership, and people can message me there. So yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. I think it's Tezeta or Tez Roro Realtor MBA. I believe it has on there.
Okay. And we'll put it in the show notes in the description. If this conversation hit you the way it hit us, folks, please share it. Send it to somebody who's in their own parking lot right now, having that moment. They need to hear this. Subscribe if you haven't already. And next Monday, we'll be coming back with another one that you don't want to miss. But before we let you go, we want to say thank you to our founding partners, Wise Agent, Subi, and the CE Shop. They make this show possible, and they're building tools that actually help people in this industry. Check them out. All the links are in the show notes. And thank you, Tez, for spending time with us. And thank you, Jeffrey, for being here with us. That's the co-host.
Thank you, Tez. Thank you, Tez. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
And thank you to everyone for listening and watching. It's not something we take lightly. Make it a great day.